Assalamualaikum and good day to all. So I'm going to review the reference words exercise that you did the other day, right? So we are going to look at one by one, and I'm going to explain the correct answers. So this is questions number 1 to number 3. So questions number 1 to number 3 are based on a short paragraph given to you. So I'm going to read the paragraph, okay? New Zealand is becoming an increasingly popular destination for overseas visitors. It attracts tourists and people on business, but the vast majority come as students. Mostly from Asian countries, they stay for anything from a few weeks to a few years or more, studying at language schools, colleges, and universities. New Zealand can offer good homestay accommodation, a clean and beautiful environment, and a reasonable cost of tuition. These factors attract an ever-increasing number of overseas students, accounting for millions of dollars in revenue for New England. Okay, so the first question is it. In line number 2, if you can look at it attracts blah blah blah. So it refers to New Zealand. Okay, so you have to look at the sentence. It attracts tourists and people on business. So what attracts tourists and people on business? So it's New Zealand attracts tourists and people on business. So the answer is New Zealand. The next one is they, line number 3. So mostly from Asian countries, they. Okay, so who are they? Who are they? It attracts tourists and people on business, but the vast majority come as students. Okay, so we know that people who come to New Zealand are people on business, and it can also be students. So they here refers to which one? Is it tourists and people on business or students? Okay, so you need to read further in the sentence. Mostly from Asian countries, they stay for anything from a few weeks to few more years studying at language schools, colleges, and universities. So if you look at the sentence, because it says that they here go to New Zealand to study at language schools, colleges, and universities. So we know that they here is referring to students, because tourists and people on business normally they don't go to a place to study. So they here refers to students. Okay, some of you answered students from Asian countries. Okay, this one is wrong, because if you look at the previous sentence, it says vast majority, but the vast majority come as students. Okay, so a bigger group is students. So the next sentence is telling you that most of them are from Asian countries, but they here are still referring to students. So these students can come from Asian countries, can come from Europe, from all over the world. So they here is referring to students. Okay, so that is the correct answer. Number 3, these factors refers to, so what are the factors that attract tourists, people on business, and students to come to New Zealand? So you have to read the sentence before the phrase these factors. Okay, so let's read the sentence first. These factors attract an ever-increasing number of overseas students, accounting for millions of dollars in revenue for New Zealand. So what are the factors that attract an ever-increasing number of overseas students? So what are the factors? So you go back to the previous sentence. New Zealand can offer good homestay accommodation, a clean and beautiful environment, and a reasonable cost of tuition. So these are all the factors that attract an ever-increasing number of university students. Okay, so the answer is good homestay accommodation, a clean and beautiful environment, and a reasonable cost of tuition. But if you answer accommodation, environment, cost of tuition, I would still accept that, but the best answer would be good homestay accommodation, a clean and beautiful environment, and a reasonable cost of tuition, because we need to be specific of what are the factors that are pulling these students to come to New Zealand. Okay, so some of you answered offer good homestay accommodation. Okay, that is wrong because of the word offer. Okay, offer here is not a factor, but the factors are good homestay accommodation, a clean and beautiful environment, and a reasonable cost of tuition. The clue here is these factors. Okay, you have to be aware that these factors are in plural. So the factors must be more than one. Okay, so if the factor is offering something, that is only one factor. Okay, so you have to find a few factors because these factors are plural. So the answer is good homestay accommodation, a clean and beautiful environment, and a reasonable cost of tuition. Next, question number 4. This one is quite easy, very straightforward. You can see it very clearly. Professor Hassan has been lecturing for 16 years. He will be retiring next year. So, who will be retiring next year? He refers to Professor Hassan. Next, overseas students often find university courses difficult. They have to struggle throughout their studies. Okay, so they have to struggle. Who have to struggle? The overseas students. So they here refers to overseas students. Their studies. Okay, whose study is it? Okay, please notice that the word their here, the word their here is a possessive pronoun. So you have to remember that the answer that you are going to give must have that apostrophe S or apostrophe. But here, because there is a plural possessive pronoun, so the answer must be in plural followed by that apostrophe. Okay, so the answer is who studies? Overseas students studies. Okay, overseas students apostrophe. So that is how you identify possessive pronoun and give the correct answer when it comes to possessive pronoun. Next, this is also a possessive pronoun question. Question number 7. Ahmad arrived late to work this morning. His car has broken down again. So, whose car is it? His is a possessive pronoun, singular. Okay, so his is referring to it must be a male. Okay, so in the sentence, because there is only one subject, one possible answer, so the answer is Ahmad, because his is a possessive pronoun, so you have to put Ahmad apostrophe S, then only it's correct. If you put Ahmad, that is wrong because Ahmad is not a possessive pronoun. It cannot show that something belongs to Ahmad. Okay, this sentence is telling you that the car belongs to Ahmad, right? Questions number 8 and 9. Overseas students often find university courses difficult. They have to struggle in order to master them. Okay, so they have to struggle. Who have to struggle? They, overseas students. They have to struggle in order to master them. Master what? Master university courses. Okay, so you have to use your logical sense in order to understand the sentence and in order to find the correct answer. Ask yourself questions like, who have to struggle? They. They is a plural. Okay, plural pronoun. So the answer must be plural. Some of you answered overseas student, which is wrong because it's singular. It must be overseas students because they is plural. Okay, the same goes as them. Them is a plural object. Okay, so your answer must be in plural. University courses. It cannot be university course because it's singular, Right? So you have to be aware of the singular and plural and use your logical sense to identify what is the correct answer. Okay? Ask yourself questions like, who have to struggle? And they have to struggle in order to master what? Okay, them, why? What is referring to, them is referring to what? Okay? Of course, they have to struggle in order to master the university courses. They cannot struggle to master overseas students. Okay, so that is what I mean by logical sense. This one is also quite easy, but a bit tricky here and there, but should be okay. Most of you got it correct. Mr. Sham works for Mr. Johari for the past 20 years. He is very loyal to him, so he is the one who works. So he, the one who works, must be loyal to the employer. Okay, so he here refers to Mr. Sham, and him refers to Mr. Johari. Question number 12, a teacher should always be prepared. Okay, they should also be punctual. Notice that the pronoun used here is a plural, so you have to change the word teacher to teachers because it's in plural. So that is the trick. Most of you got this wrong because you answered teacher or a teacher. So it must be plural. It is commonly accepted that people with a higher education generally work in higher paid jobs. Okay, so it here refers to something that is commonly accepted. So what is commonly accepted? Okay, it is commonly accepted that what? People with higher education generally work in higher paid jobs. Okay, so you have to ask yourself questions like, it is commonly accepted that what? What is commonly accepted? Okay, so it is referring to that. Look at those clouds. They are getting darker. So they here is a plural, so your answer must be plural. It's either clouds or those clouds should be correct. Okay, but cloud is wrong. Question number 15. Homework is essential. It allows students to review work they have studied in class. So what allows students to review work they have studied in class? What is it? Homework. Yes. So it here refers to homework. Admittedly, student depression is hard to investigate as few people are willing to talk openly about it. About what? A few people are willing to talk openly about what? About student depression. It can take up 4 years to complete a degree. It can take up 4 years to what? It is referring to this, to what? Okay, it can take up to 4 years to complete a degree. Okay, it's not just degree, but it's to complete a degree. Okay. Otago is a very popular university. It was the first university in New Zealand. So it is referring to Otago University, right? Okay, so you can answer Otago or you can answer Otago University. That is accepted. So it here refers to Otago or Otago University, right? So that is all for this reference words review. I hope you are clear about it, right? Thank you.